introduction. Lord High Sheriff, Lord Mayors, Civic Mayors, Mayors, Chairman, Yorkshire Society members, ladies and gentlemen, to Yorkshire. I'm very fortunate to be able to address you today because I am a Yorkshireman, but I am cosmopolitan. I'm cosmopolitan for this reason. I was born in Sheffield. I live within the Barnsley boundary, and I've had the privilege of working in Rotherham for over 40 years. And in 2013, Rotherham were gracious enough to bestow on me the Freeman, I became a Freeman of the Borough, which was the proudest day of my life. And I'd like to say openly to everybody here today, I'm very proud and pleased in my small capacity today to represent Rotherham. It's a great town. We have had problems, everybody knows about that, but so have many other towns. And can I say to you, there are some fantastic people, caring people, wonderful people in Rotherham, and I am personally privileged to be a part of it. Now, I may get a second leadership now, but ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here, especially on this fantastic day. I'll tell you a little story about being a Yorkshireman later on if we have time, and it involves a radio star called Libby Purvis. But more of that in a minute. When I was invited to speak here, I said, well, really, what should I talk about? And they said, well, talk about, for example, your career. Well, my career, ladies and gentlemen, is 50 years long in October of this year. So for the next 4 hours, I'd like to sit down. I'm from a beautiful little Bijou village in the deep south of Yorkshire, called Mumwell. Now, Mumwell's not twinned with anywhere. We have a suicide pact at Grimsby. I said that at a dinner actually some years ago, and this chap came up to me, very resplendent with his armaments on, and he said, do you know who I am? I said, no, I don't. He said, I'm Mayor of Grimsby. I said, oh, bloody hell. I'd like to pay tribute, first of all, to my father. I say this because he's no longer with us, but he was actually born on Yorkshire Day, 1921, I think. He served during the war with the Golden Islanders, odd with a name like Smith, from Sheffield, serving with the Golden Islanders. But Dad was a butcher. And if I may, I'd like to take this opportunity of paying a little tribute to Dad, because he became the manager of the Sheffield Road branch of the Barnsley British Cooperative Society Butchery Department. And he gave me my first opportunity to start work. So forgive me if I pay this little tribute to him. Cast your mind back. It is Christmas Eve, 1958. I'm 10 years old. And my dad said, you're starting work today, lad. He said, you start work at 6. There are no breaks. But at 9 o'clock at night, you'll finish work, and we'll go into the flat, and Mum will bring us a banquet. Now, a banquet for us in those days was gammon, eggs, sausage, tomatoes, black pudding, and Mum's famous bottom cake. We didn't have much money, but we lived well. We lived out of the shop. It's called theft from employers. But then it was Christmas Eve and we worked, as Dad said, and at 5 minutes to 9 he said, right lad, do the block. Now do the block in those days, if there's anybody in here that's over 50, and there may be 1 or 2, you may remember the butcher's block, beveled and the cleaning tool, which was metal prongs, and we used to scrape the block, and he used to scrape bits of sawdust, congealed blood, bits of fat. They used to push him into the sausage bag, and sure enough, he said, do the block, I did the block, and then Dad took me to the doorway into the flat, and he said, right son, he said, do my books, lad. Now Dad's boots were tied with piano wire, because in those days, sawdust floor, don't see it now. And I undid the boots, and I could see Dad's feet swell with the rigours of the day. Dad was wounded in World War II in his back, and he suffered agonies, but he still worked very, very hard. And when Dad got into the room, he eased himself down into the big leather chair. His face had a grimace across it. And what we learned was that when Dad sat in that big leather chair, you did not move him. He would not move for man nor beast, not even for my mum. And sure enough, 3 minutes past 9, in she walked with this tray. Gammon, egg, sausage, tomatoes, black pudding. And she broke a piece of oven bottom cake which had just come out of the oven in time. And a sliver of steam emanated towards the ceiling. And Dad's just about to dip that into a double Yorker. And there's a knock on the shop door. Oh, I looked at Dad. Dad looked at me. And then I looked at Mum. Mum looked at Dad. Dad looked at Mum. And Mum looked at me. And then Dad uttered those mortal words. I don't think I'll ever forget when he said, I wonder who that can be at the front door. Off. Dad walked to the door, and there was a lady there from the very wealthy part of Barnsley. If you know Barnsley, in those days, on Sheffield Road near Brinkman Street, it's all the big Victorian houses with all the very wealthy people in it. And oddly enough, my job was to deliver meat on a little 3-wheeler bike. Can you imagine now sending a 10-year-old out delivering meat anywhere? Anywhere. Well, Dad said, can I help you? She said, oh yes you can. She said, I'm afraid I went to Harrogate for my shopping. And Dad went, all right. She said, do you know what, I've been very silly today. She said, yes, I forgot to buy the turkey. Now, do you have a turkey left in your big walk-in fridge? And Dad said, I have. Well, I knew we only had one left. Next time, weren't they? Okay. So Dad trudged into the big walk-in fridge, opened the big steel door, brought out the turkey and put it in front of her on the weighing scale, and he said, there we are, missus, £3.76. She said, oh. Do you have one a little larger? I said, Dad, there's only one shelf. I said, Dad, there's only one Dad walked into the big walk-in fridge, and when this lady couldn't see him, I regret to tell you, he took a £2 brass weight. And he shoved it right to the... And he brought it out, he put it on the weight scales, he said, there we are, missus, £4.11. She said, splendid. I'll take them both. It was then when I realised I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. It was an inauspicious start for me, really. I didn't do very well at school. I went to a school in Barnsley called Doncaster. I have fond memories of it because I used to love sport. You wouldn't think looking at me now that I was a sportsman. Well, I took drugs. But since then, I've had a few knee problems and the middle age spread. But I didn't do very well. I didn't want to stay. I wanted to be a musician. Unlike, of course, Cousin David. Now, Cousin David, I have to tell you about. In Rotherham, we call people like him swats. And he was a swat. And I remember when the O-level results came out, I only got 2 at first sitting. I got metalwork and gardening, grade H. And And when I came home, my mum said, I've seen your results. She said, David's got 10. Oh, good. Grade A's. Oh, 18 months later, of course. Have you heard about David? No, I haven't. He's got 5 A-levels. Oh, marvellous. Grade 1s. Oh, good. And then, some time afterwards, it perpetuates itself. But then she said, have you heard about David? I said, no, he's not dead, is he? She said, no. He's got his medical degree. I thought, oh, really. But you know, karma, what goes around, comes around. And I have to tell you with great delight that cousin David, the SWAT, got struck off. He did the cardinal wrong thing that one must not do when you have a medical degree. He had a relationship with one of his patients. So they struck him off. Which is a shame, really, because a really good vet, aren't they? No, I have to tell you the truth. No, he wasn't. Well, he is. He is a GP. I'm not going to tell you where, because if you live in his area, you will suffer from a stomach complaint. But he used to be in Rotherham. Now, I used to play football at the Henningthorpe Leisure Centre. 6-a-side, all-weather pitch outside. I used to love it. It used to have great fun. And David was our goalkeeper. And I went up to the surgery where he worked. I used to pick him up, used to take him down to football. And we kicked off at 6 o'clock. Anyway, it's 5 to 6. I'm standing outside his surgery, dressed in my football gear, not a pretty sight. And a knock on the window, he said, 2 minutes. And he took in his last patient. So I'm sitting in the waiting room, and this lady went in, and he's looking at his watch. He's very anxious. So he said, hello. I said, oh, is this Tyrone, young Tyrone? Yes, she said. He said, no, then. He said, tell me, how old is Tyrone? She said, oh, it's 6 months. Oh, he said, right. He said, well, let me just have a little check. Puts him on the weighing scales, the same weighing scales as we weigh the dog. And he said, how old's this child? She said, 6 months. He said, this baby's underweight. Oh, yes, she said, I didn't know that. I said, yes, he is. Look, don't worry, we can deal with it. May I just ask, how is this baby fed? Is the baby breastfed or bottle fed? She said, well, breastfed actually. Oh, I said, well, let me give you a quick examination, take 2 minutes. I need to tell you that. She said, well, it's all right, don't worry. Take 2 minutes, 2 minutes. She said, yes, but I do. She said, no, really, 2 minutes. I was 6 off, we're playing football. It's 6:05 at this time, we were 6-0 down because we had a goalkeeper, anyway, over centre forward. Anyway, he examines her and he said, panic over, I know what the problem is. Madam, you are not carrying any milk. She said, well, I won't go, I'm his auntie. He said, my niece is ill, she can't come. So you get the picture of how it was. But in 1971 I came to Rotherham, and that's when my education really began. I worked for a man called George Tierney, who was a genius businessman, nice guy. He was very, very good to me, and I had 10 fantastic years there. And that's when afterwards we formed Wilford Smith, now 22 Westgate Rotherham, we do conveyancing and we also represent villains and rogues, charlatans and con. And looking along the top table, I have to say how comfortable I felt. I wrote books too because I used to like to tell stories about the people that I met along the way. And I wrote a book called Boozers, Bollocks and Ale, which is available to this day, and you can get it on Amazon if you look at my website, yourstevesmith.com, and you get the web all the books on. And in this book, I talk about a family that lived in Rotherham, still do, I think. And they're called the Hexton stores, but that's not their real name. I changed the name, obviously. I didn't want them to sue me or anything like that. And I'd like to relate a little story to you. It's extremely coarse and extremely vulgar. And Keith made me say, tell it, but we're down a bomb here. So I went to see, it's on this idea that we would visit clients. In those days, solicitors were very sort of autocratic and the people had to visit them. Well, we were Yorkshire lads, we didn't want that. We wanted to bring our services to the people. And so I hit on this idea that we would advertise in the Rotherham Advertiser, and we would say, if you've got a legal problem and you can't get in, we will come and see you. And we got some incredible letters. One of them wanted to sue Rotherham Council because, if I recall the letter, said, I want to sue Rotherham Council. That's our neighbour, our next door neighbour. His son keeps banging his balls on my fence and he's causing a hell of a problem. And another one was, I want to take the council to task because our toilet seat's broken and we can't get BBC Two. And I got this letter from Jack Heptonstall, would I go and see him? Well, I went to a little village just outside of Rotherham to see him. And I got to this house, and I thought it bordered onto the canal, so people, when they walk towards Meadow Hall. And I thought, this man is a man of the people, because he has armchairs, old bedspreads, things like that in his garden, for obviously the people passers by to see him restaurant. And I see him in the window, and he waves me in. He's standing there, resplendent in his grey vest, emblazoned with his favourite gravy. And I start to walk down the pathway to his house, and there's the biggest dog you've ever seen in your life on his front doorstep, and he's growling. It looked like a cross between a wolf and a llama. And as I'm walking up, he growls at me again, so I'm not in for this. I'm not in for this. I'll get rabies off of this. So I point to Jack, I point to the dog. I said, come on. He opens the door, and the dog runs inside. So I think, that's all right, okay. So I walk to the house, and the smell of woodman smoke and chip fat hit me. And we have an expression in the deep south. If there's a house that's not particularly salubrious, we say it's heaving. I don't know if you know that expression. Well, this was heaving, forward, back, sideways, east and west. In fact, I thought the line had got lines on it until it moved. And the dog went and sat on the pegged rug, and it's looking at me. So I talked to her about his claim, and I said, I tell you what we'll do, we'll fill in an application for legal aid to try to get public funding to support you. You've got a justified claim. Legal aid is something that used to exist in this country before the Conservative Party took it away. Now, I filled in the form and it says, list your dependents. So I said, Jack, tell me your dependents. What's that? I said, well, that's people who, I said, you got any other kids? No. So we've got kids' toys and clothes here in this wonderful place. They're not my kids, they're our lasses. Oh, your lasses' kids, I said, all right, okay, well, I've got to have a list of their names and I'll put them on the form. So I said, right, well, Elvis. Yes. That's Darren. Okay, Darren. And the second, Elvis, Darren. Darren. The third, Darren. The fourth, twins. Oh, twins! Yeah. Darren and Darren. 7 kids all called Darren. I said, I don't get this, Jack. But even if I asked you, I didn't want to be rude, of course. I didn't want to offend you. So I said, I've just noticed that all your lasses' kids called Darren. He says, that quick. See why I'm a solicitor. I said, why are they all called Darren this way? It's convenience like. I said, I don't understand. He said, it's convenient. Look, in the morning, Darren can get up for the dinner. I meant breakfast, actually. Lunchtime, Darren can get up for the lunch. Means, Darren, come in for the supper. So it's convenient, it's dead easy. It says April, Darren, the raspberry. So I said, I understand it. I said, but how do you speak to them individually? He said, oh, no problem, I just use the surnames. Just then, as I'm filling in the door, and please, I hope you're not offended by this, but it's life, isn't it? It's life. But you remember the dog, his dog? Well, the dog embarrassed itself. And to be frank, it looks as though it hadn't embarrassed itself for about a fortnight, to be honest. I thought, what's he got? And I looked at Jack, and Jack looked at me, and I looked at the dog. The dog looked at Jack, Jack looked at the dog, and he never said a word, he didn't say anything. But the one thing I've learned in this job, unless you're after dinner speaking, don't offend anybody. So I didn't say anything. And I asked him to sign the form, and he signs the form, and I said, right, well, Jack, well, I'm ready for off. He said, do you want a sandwich before you go? So I said, no, I'm a haemophiliac. It was the first thing that came into my mind. Anyway, I said, look, any questions before he said, I've got 2 questions for you. I said, right, what's the first one? He said, will you be coming back? I said, no, I don't. He said, well, what if I want it for something? I said, well, give me a ring. So I've got a phone. I said, well, drop me a line. So I can't write. I said, well, I'll drive past, pick the horn and wave, and, you can come out and have a word with me. All right. I said, and the second question? I don't know how to ask it. I said, well, ask away. I'm embarrassed. I said, don't be, ask away. He said, well, if you don't come back? I said, yes. He said, well, you don't want to think for me? I said, yes. He said, you'll not bring your dog, will you? He's still a client of ours, and all those kids grew up, they're all bent, they're all in trouble, they're all in the youth court. We built an extension on, thanks to them. So I'm very grateful to them. And I wrote these stories about them and about his family and some of the things that they did and some of the things that they got up to. You won't believe, there's no time for me to tell you some of them, but they are in the books and podcasts and mail which you can get on the website. And then one day I wrote this book about it, and the book went viral. 45 copies we sold. And I think viral infection is probably the description. But anyway, and it came into the path of a great Yorkshireman, a chap born in Wexford. He was a musician, he was a disc jockey, he was a noted writer, speaker, comedian. He was a great man, and he was called Tony Capstick. You may remember the great man. He had a flawed personality. He kept getting into trouble, and he had 1 or 2 bouts with the law. I represented him about 3 times. Never paid me. The 3rd time was his 3rd breathalyzer, and he was trying to drive home in Wentworth down to his little rented cottage, and he ended up in a ditch. His car ended up in a ditch. And I suppose it's funny really that the policeman said, have you just driven here, sir? And Capstick said, I don't think I walked it, was that? And he was somebody dealt with, and he was banned for a long time, but he was still a very, very talented man. And he did an awful lot for local charities, and that's why I really rated him. And we used to work together on shows, and they used to say he's brilliant in the first half, because in the second half, if you got a chance at the wine bottle. But I remember one day I was called in to the radio, and I did it every Friday afternoon under the Casket Show. We talked about the events of the day, any interesting cases, and there were always plenty of them from Robin. And so I was able to enjoy myself for a very, very long time, 3 years in fact. And one day I went there, and Casket had got 2 colour television sets, and he more or less robbed rumble-boats for these 2 sets. And he'd got this passion for supporting aged concern. And he said, Smithy, I've got 2 colour tellies, and what we're going to do, we're going to give them away. And he said, I've got this idea that we will ask old widows to ring you, and if they're over 85, and if they are widows, and they don't have a telly, they get the 2 television sets, first 2 to ring. I said, Tony, that's fantastic. The producer didn't like it. He said, no, make it a competition. Make one lose, and then it's really tragic. It's good radio. Well, Tony was about as polite as, what can I say? Somebody from Lancashire, really. And I didn't mean that. That was all in jest. So, he said, well, I tell you what, we'll ask a simple question and make it very, very easy. So the first caller came on, and Tony said to me, he said, right, ask her a question. I went, me? Why me? Well, he said, well, and he used to do that, he used to drop you in it. And I thought, what can I ask? And I saw a poster on the wall because some school kids had been on a trip, and they put this Walt Disney poster on. So I said, hello, it's, is it Mildred? And this boy said, hello, yes, it's Mildred. I said, lovely. Mildred, are you over 85? Yes, I am. I'm 89 now. Oh, super. And may I ask, are you a widow? Yes, I am. She said, I lost my Herbert 3 years ago, and oh, I do miss him. I said, oh, I am sorry. I said, do you have a telly? No, I've only got a wireless. I said, right. I am going to ask you a question, and if you get the question right, you'll get this 44-inch plasma. Oh, good. So, I said, give me the name of a Walt Disney animal that the film was named after, a little baby fawn. Oh, she says, I've got it. I said, right. It's Dumbo. I said, no, Dumbo's an elephant. Oh, give me a clue. Well, in my earpiece, the producer said, no clues, get on with it, make a lose. I thought, look, yours. So I said, look. The first part of the name is the. No, the first part of the name is Bam. I know, I've got it. I said, right. Bambagascoy. No, look, say Bam and not close. Say Bam and Big. What have you got? Big Bam. No, Bam, Big, Bambi, you're born. Oh. Then we get the call from Doris from Cancro. Where are you, Tony? You say Doris from Cancro? Says, are you over 85, Doris? I am. How old are you? 83. Oh, are you a winner? Am I a winner? I'm bloody glad on it. Here, where the bastard? I should have poisoned him. Should have poisoned him with a rat. I am. She's not like this. There'll be thousands of videos listening to it. Would you like a 44-inch plasma? I would. Have you got a telly? No, I haven't. Right. We're going to ask you a question. I better make a tear thing. Right, over to you. And I'm thinking, what can I ask her? No clues. I thought, oh yes, I give her no clues. They break through my office window, you know. So I thought, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give her all the clues in the question. That will defeat him. Now, Tony had a television playing. He always had the telly on during his radio show, but the sound off, obviously. And he was watching a film. It was a cowboy film, and I thought, this is it, I know what it is. I said, right, Doris, I want the name of the most famous cowboy film star that there has ever been. I said, he was in the Comancheros, Rio Bravo, he produced, directed and starred in the Alamo, he won the Congressional Medal of Honor, and his initials were J.W. I've got it. Yes. Who is it? Gene Autry. Gives a clue. No clues. And then I hit on this idea, thinking on my feet. I couldn't give a clue, so I said, the hell I will. She said, you're wrong, lady, you gave her a clue. We drove around and we gave her the television set. She got two already in front of her. But the following week was the legal phone-in, and I'd like to just tell you a little about this before I tell you his favourite saying, and then I'll leave you. But Tony wanted a legal phone-in. Now this to the lawyers, and to John particularly, he will know that if you go on the radio and you are asked a legal question and you get it wrong, they will sue you. And so the worst thing you can do is to go on the radio and answer questions if it's not your subject. Now my subject, although the office does land and conveyancing, we also do probate wills, by the way. I'm looking around here, I'm sort of fancy. But I do some crime, so it's you know, I don't know anything about land. So I said, Tony, I'm not going to do it. I said, well, we've trailed it all week, which means we've advertised it, that it's coming and he's going to stand up and answer all these questions. So we've got a load of questions ready. People ring up. So I said, well, if it's not my subject, I'm not going to. I said, what do you expect? He said, look, do what lawyers do. I said, what's that? He said, lie to them. First question that came in, and I'm really uncomfortable. I'm not very happy about this. This questioner said, Tony, I don't have a question for your lawyer friend. Oh, splendid, right, ask away. He said, I've just been done by one of these dreadful speed cameras. Can you help me? I said, certainly. And I said a prayer. Thank you, Lord. I said, this happens to be my subject, that's section 25 of the Road Traffic Act. I said, speeding attracts points on a sliding scale, 3 to 6, depending on the level of the speeding. And if it's excessive, you could face a discretionary disqualification. Oh, thank you very much. I said, it's all right, it's all right. Tony's giving me the thumbs up. Even no clue, producer, he's happy. I'm copying now. Bring it on. And then we get the caller from hell. Chap from Door in Sheffield. I'm in a terrible rush. Sure. He said, I'm in a terrible rush. My question is this: I found out just 3 weeks ago that I was born illegitimate. Something which I realised was true as the conversation wore on. I never met my father, I didn't know about him. I didn't know until he died and his will was announced. He didn't marry my mother, I was adopted. He went to Australia and became a very rich man. He had farms, had land and cattle. And he created the first revisionary discretionary trust. He created it in Australia, but it reached the top level of tax. So he created a second revisionary discretionary trust, this time out of Canada. That reached the top level for tax. So he decided the best thing to do would be to create a third revisionary discretionary trust, this time out of Malaysia. Now my question for you is this: as Turkey is about to enter the EEC, do you think I should create a fourth revisionary trust, or run it in parallel when it actually joins the Union? Well, he lost me when he told me his parents were married. And then I remembered what Dad had always said to me. He said, think on your feet. I said, sir, you said you're in a terrible rush. Yes, I am. I said, are you driving? Yes, I'm going to London. I said, right, well, be very careful. I'm going to give you this advice. Because if you get caught speeding, you'll get between 3 and 6 points. Then we get the call that I will never ever forget. And when I'm privileged to be able to go and speak around the world, places like Watford, Thurnscott, Budworth, I always tell this story because it's true and it's mine. But the last call that we got that afternoon was a little old lady called April. I will never ever forget this if I live to be 50. Hello, Tony. He said, hello. He said, it's April, isn't it? Yes, it is. Hello, Tony. He said, now then, April, you're through to Stephen Smith now. If you'd like to ask him any question you ask him on trust, he's good at that. He'll answer it. Oh, Tony. I love your show. Oh, he says, thank you, that's smashing. Now you're through to Stephen Smith now. If you'd like to ask him any question, Tony. Me and my Jack never miss your show, we've heard them all. Oh, he says, smashing. Now you're through to Stephen and Tony. If I have to take Jack to hospital, we tape it, your show, we tape it, listen to it, we do. He says, smashing. Now you're through to Stephen Smith now. If he gets you, says Tony. My Jack died on Monday. Oh, that stopped him in his tracks. So he said, oh, April now. Oh, I'm sorry, is that why you've rung in to speak to the... She says, you know, Tony, we were married for 55 years, me and my Jack, and he was a wonderful man. Oh, April, and she says, you know, Tony, today, it's the saddest day of my life, because it's the burial today, Tony. Oh, April, I'm sorry, she said, but it's the proudest. Well, why is that? She said, well, you see, in the village where I live, everybody that lives have come to see my Jack today, to pay tribute. He's in his coffin, in my front room, my Jack. And I'm so proud. Everybody's been to see, pay their respects. And Tony said, hey, do you think Jack would like it, just as you're pulling out, if we played a musical tribute to him? She said, would you? He said, yes, I will. And I'll get Smithy to pick a CD. And there aren't any, because of course it's all digital, and he'd forgotten. But there are 2 propping open the door, true story. And I picked these 2 up, he said, April, do you think Jack would like this, Claudia Rogers? Ooh, we love it. All right, okay. He said, April, on behalf of the Director General of the BBC, oh yes, my station manager, David Marco, my producer, and Tony started to cry. And my producer, Gary Keogh, he said, we'd like to play this musical tribute to Jack in Yorkshire, his coffin. And he pressed the button, and I kid you not, the music went, you're just my Jack in a box. He said, give it out of this bloody CD. I haven't done the CD. It's Bing Crosby. It's a cock-up. It's Bing Crosby. Sorry, April. And Bing went, heaven, I'm in heaven. Funny enough, it was the last phone I ever did. And as Keith said, I spoke at the 30th anniversary of the Yorkshire Society. I did so well, I'm being back since. But I would like, just in passing, to endorse Madam, your words today, particularly about the question of pride. I've just got time to do it. I went to Radio 4 on the Libby Purvis show to talk about my books. Now, I didn't think that was a great idea because I don't know if there are any Libby Purvis fans in, and I'm sorry if there are, and I don't mean any disrespect to you or to her, but she's horrible. And I'm there with David Shepherd, the man that paints the tigers. There is a very nice transvestite cellist and a cosmonaut. So I thought, this is a great cast, this. And Dickens on last, you see, I'm the comic. Anyway, she came in, we were down in the waiting room downstairs. And she came across, and she saw me. And she came across, and obviously I was the only one that I'd never heard of. So she comes to me and she said, are you the comic? So I said, well, certain High Court judges have referred to me as in that way. She said, well, if you're funny, tell me something funny now that happened to you yesterday. And then she started to tap the thoughts. Well, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. Bernard Manning would have struggled a bit, wouldn't he? Because he felt, sort of felt intimidated. She said, go on, tell me something. So who did you have lunch with yesterday? Well, yesterday, she said, yes. I said, well, I had my lunch with Trevor. She said, Trevor? Who's Trevor? I said, well, it's Trevor Mycock. He owns the electrical shop. She said, well, tell me about him. I said, well, I rang Trevor, and somebody just sat on answered the phone, and he answered it in a sort of dodgy way, I thought. So I rang Trevor, I said, well, can I just, you know that lad you've got working for you? Nice lad, but can you tell him to change his tack when he answers the phone? She said, why? I said, because. I said, it's just the way he answered it. And he said, well, I don't understand. I said, well, read the number and you'll find out. She's tapping foot. So Trevor rang the number, and this voice said, good morning, Mycock's Electric. And she said, David Shepherd, how nice to meet you. He got 30 minutes, the cellist got 20 minutes, I think I got 5. But the reason I mentioned that, she said, where are you from? And I said, from Rotherham. Where's that? You know, I said, well, it's in Yorkshire. She said, I've heard of that. Well, you don't knock Rotherham to me, and you certainly don't knock Yorkshire, so I thought, right, you're having Trevor Mycock, that's what you're having. And to this day, I've not been invited back, and I'm not bothered. But Tony always used to finish, when he used to do a session, he always used to finish with his special phrase. I never understood it because it's far too in-depth for me. But I've been told that there's some very intelligent people here today who will seize on this and will understand it, know it, and understand the gravitas of this in-depth message. So I'd like to leave you with the same message that Tony used to leave everyone. And it's simple, and it's this. If anybody can understand it, come and tell me. And it's this. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you are rich or whether you are poor, it is better to be rich.